Well, my computer says we got one more minute before 6:30, so,
That's what mine says too.
okay.
And YouTube is live as well.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Okay, being 6:30, I'll call the facilities meeting to order. Roll call shows all members are present, along with Deb, Chairman Dave, and Mercedes. And so we will approval of the minutes. We all were mailed the minutes. Any additions or corrections to be made to the minutes?
Yeah,
Don,
I've got a couple on paragraph F. The student's name at the last line, her name is Katie, K-A-D-I. And then Wright should add a W in front of it, W-R-I-G-H-T.
oh, okay.
And then I was wondering, paragraph H, should we say that the committee approved the recommendation to split the department instead of what's there is probably not, because we did approve it, the recommendation. I don't know. I was just wondering if that was maybe not quite clear.
I suppose we could if that would clean it up, you know.
It's a small point. I mean, but we could say the committee recommended the recommendation. No, that way the committee approved the recommendation, which I guess we did do,
Right.
What paragraph is that?
H,
That was H.
item number H, consideration for action to be taken by the committee.
I agree with Don.
Okay. How do you want it? How do you want it to be corrected?
I just say the committee approved the recommendation, so and so.
Okay. You want to just leave the committee approve the recommendation, dividing the highway and facilities and transit into their own entities?
Yeah, I guess that.
Well, just so everybody's in agreement as to if we're going to make the correction, which, is fine. I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
get the right verbiage.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or points to be brought out? Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes with the noted changes?
I'll approve.
Don has made a motion and Mike has seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Okay. Next item, public comments. There are no public comments. Items to be placed at the request of the chair, we have none. Staff and recreation reports, fair and fair board. Deb?
Okay. You just probably received the report. After I got back from convention, my dad had a simple angiogram is what we thought was going to happen, and ended up with some pretty severe complications. So I've been I kind of shut the fair off for a little bit while we dealt with those health issues. He's doing much better. But that's why my report's late, so I apologize for that piece. I have like a few days to finish up the end of the year reports that we need to submit to the state of Wisconsin. I'll be finishing those up. They're actually due the first week of February because of the way it falls this year. They gave us an extension, and due to COVID. So we do have an extension to work on those and finish those up. The beef weigh-in is scheduled for Saturday, February 5th, and the beef weigh-in is mandatory this year. So all the kids that are in the beef project that are participating in the weigh-in will be required to weigh in. And then they will also participate in the total performance contest, which is at the fair as part of the fair. Sheep, swine, and goats are going to be, obviously there's no swine because it's a terminal show. So we can't bring those together. But the other ones are optional, whether or not they want to participate in the weigh-ins or not. I recently was at the Wisconsin Associated of Fairs Convention. Many interesting workshops and roundtables held, primarily the same issue that all fairs are having with that we had. Exhibits were down, volunteers were down, crowds were up, which is on a good note. The attendance was up for all fairs, and it just trying to create ideas and work through how we're going to increase those exhibits and what we're going to do to get more people exhibiting at the fair in the future. And I just added some information on there. I spoke last time we met in December about the fair revenue grants. They were awarded. Fairs that received the grants were 27, and then there was one associate member that belongs to the Wisconsin Association of Fairs. 4.4 million was awarded to those fairs. Several fairs were maxed out at the 200,000 mark, including some of our neighbors. So they're very fortunate to get that money. The governor again reminded everybody that fairs that were organized under the county were to be included in the ARPA and the CARES funding that counties have already received. And so what we'd like to ask for is some funds be set aside for the fair to make some improvements to fair infrastructure. And if that could be placed on a future facilities committee agenda to maybe discuss more, and we can bring more information to the table on that. And I've talked to Scott before a little bit about the lighting in the fair office. Every time we go to print something, the lights dim. I know there's a ballast and a couple lights that are going out in the fair office. When that building was built, for whatever reason, they didn't put the light switch by the back door. They put it on the wall opposite, so it's pretty dark in there, and you go through halfway through the building before you can turn a light switch on when you come in the back way. Not sure who designed that, but poor design. So it, and then we use the coverall building for our sheep, llama, and swine building, and we have mats that we borrow to put under the swine because you all know, if you're familiar with livestock at all, that swine have a tendency to dig and root, and it doesn't work real good on dirt. So we've got that in there. It'd be great to put some concrete in there. We do have some funds set aside for that from the meat animal sale to help pay for part of that. And then look at constructing a multi-purpose free stage structure that would be in conjunction with Menominee Youth Hockey for multi-purpose use that all year round that could be used there. And I just added a side note that there are several counties that have received funding to update the grounds. The other piece I guess I didn't add was, to fence the grounds to make it more secure so that we can actually get a better count on how many people are actually coming in and not miss some of that revenue. So, and again, we'll be discussing our options for the future of the fair. We haven't met since COVID reared its heavy head again. We will be meeting in February. January's meeting didn't get held because I was at the hospital with my dad, and but we will be having a meeting in February to get back on track. I'm also hiring judges and sending out vendor letters for the fair. So I've been kind of busy. So any questions or comments?
Would it, I agree, we'll put it on our next month's agenda. And I know time is short for you, but would it be possible to have an exact dollar figure that you would be requesting and as to where the monies would go? Like, X amount of dollars for this, X amount of dollars for that. I think it would be a better approach if we actually had a set number and as to where the funds would go.
Yep,
If that
and
was-
absolutely, we would bring that to the table if it even was something that we could discuss with the facilities committee. We would definitely get some figures pulled together.
Yeah, but pull them together. I think that would
Yep.
be a good approach.
Okay,
Anybody else have any comments? Mike?
So is it possible, Deb, for you to put together a little verbiage or something, kind of outlining why the county, why we're not receiving the funds, because the governor says that we should be getting it from the CARES, and kind of outline that so it's a little cleaner and clearer so everybody understands it a little better. So that if we do discuss this at the next meeting, there's a little better chance that at least something can move forward and not be killed right on arrival.
sure, I can do that. We actually, as Wisconsin Association of Fairs, worked with the Department of Administration and actually Secretary Romansky, Ag Department Secretary Romansky. And I visited with him a little bit at the fair or at the convention. So he kind of knows the plight of the counties that were kind of missed in this whole piece. So we do have some information prepared that we've worked on previously that I can certainly bring to that meeting also.
Could you also maybe put together a little comparison on what some of the neighboring fairs have received that were not county owned, so that there is something to compare it to when you start requesting, or when we start asking for the CARES money to go to that, there's some basis for what you're asking and not just a blue sky number.
Sure. I can do that.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, any other questions for Deb or anybody? If not, we'll move on to Facilities and Parks Division Operations. Scott?
Good evening. First thing I would like to do is introduce Mercedes Ress. She is our administrative specialist that was hired in place of Marge. She started January 3rd. Her office is out at the front office of the Highway Department. And she is pushing close to a month of, well, I guess this is her third week, is it?
Yep.
She's learning a lot, dealing with her frustrations of SAP, of course. I just hope she doesn't get too frustrated, that she keeps working with it and stays at it. But I think she'll do a great job. She's learning. She seems to catch on really quick. So this is her first facilities meeting. So I wanted to introduce her to everyone. So if you
Welcome,
wanna-
welcome.
Thank you.
Next, you'll see, you saw in the packet, there was a AT&T cell antenna lease that Nick had included and sort of sent to me. I included it for informational purposes for you guys. It looks like AT&T was going for a lot asking in their lease to get changed, and they did not get a lot changed out of it. So Nick wanted to bring that to the facility committee attention for knowledge. Like he said, in the past, it's simply been signed by the county manager, and the rent goes to 911 department. So we really don't see anything out of that, but then you're aware of what's going on with it.
I have a question. So Nick was the one who wrote that and did the negotiation then?
Yep, Nick did
Or-
everything. He just sent this
Yeah.
information to me to pass along to the committee.
Okay, because there was no name on it and I was kind of wondering about that.
Yep, it was Nick's. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Scott or Chuck?
Yeah,
So shouldn't this fall under one of the committees for action? I mean, to approve it?
as far as when you say one of the committees, it'd be either be under the emergency 911 or a structured committee for, okay,
Yeah, that's my question. Shouldn't that go through one of the committees? I guess maybe not. I'm just asking.
Yeah, past practice, Nick said it's never been a board resolution approval for this. It's never been one of the committees that has dealt with it. I guess if we wanted to put it to a committee, it's up to you guys.
Chairman Bartlett, what are your thoughts on this?
My first thought is sometimes, if I remember correctly, back when I was chair of judicial, we talked about the lease on the tower a lot with 911. So I guess my first thought is what committee has been handling this in the past. I don't ever remember it coming up before facilities before at all. And I guess as far as if a committee has to okay it or not, I would have to go with Nick's recommendation that a committee doesn't have to, although it does seem to me that it is a contract and maybe a committee should be involved. So I think maybe some questions, talking to Nick to find out why it doesn't have to go to committee other than it never has, and which committee it should go to. So I can approach Nick on that, or Scott can, but I think somebody should, or you can.
Well, but I guess I agree. It should be looked into and addressed, and if nothing else, sent forward to the exec committee, so they're aware of what's going on too. So I'll let either you or Scott talk to Nick about it, and we can go from there. Yeah, Mike.
And I guess just to follow up, I don't know that it's a big issue or anything, but if that lease would have come through and it didn't have any checks and balancing and someone would have signed it, and not that anyone would have, but then they could have signed a really bad lease with AT&T without any oversight. So that's what brought up my question with it.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you for addressing.
Yep. Any other questions or discussions on that report? Okay, if not, okay, Scott, go on to the floods.
Oh, the floods. You want to hear about the floods? Okay.
Well, it seemed like there was a couple of them.
We did have a couple of floods, yes. As you read in my written report, it was the morning of January 3rd after the New Year's weekend. Got a phone call of public health staff came into Government Center and their reception area was flooded, covered in water. Got the phone call a little before 6. I guess I was probably the first one to respond. Got my guys all called and got myself in there, and it was a urinal, the first floor men's restroom that was, the flush valve was stuck on. Water was filling up the urinal and it overflowed the urinal. The drain didn't take it all. Water went onto the floor. That restroom does have a floor drain in it. Unfortunately, the installation of the floor drain, they picked a spot for the floor drain and drilled their hole and put the piping in and everything. And as it happens in a lot of construction projects, the tile floor was put in and nobody looked at the slope of the floor. And so they tiled over existing floor and the water goes the opposite way of the floor drain. So the water continued to pour onto the floor, going over against the wall and spreading out in an area, and eventually seeped through its point of least resistance and made its way to the basement and flooded the public health area. So got the urinal shut off and started working on cleaning up water on the first floor. And my guys started coming in. We got shop backs and carpet extractors going, sucking up water. And then moved down to public health area and got water dried up as fast as possible, cleaned up, and got dehumidifiers going and floor fans going. And a few days it was pretty well dried out. We do have some damage. There was a door that got saturated with water and the laminate on it swelled up, so a door needs to be replaced. Ceiling tiles in the reception area where Zua has her desk, they all came down. They're done for, so we got to replace some ceiling tiles. I talked with Patty Isaacson about filing a claim with the insurance. She did so, and I requested a adjuster to come out and take a look at it. He came out, took a look, and I guess he submitted a claim of $12,000 was his estimate, 12,000 some odd dollars. But we have a $5,000 deductible. So if we file a claim, we're going to end up paying $5,000. So we were looking at the countertop in Zua's area, where her workspace, that got saturated, and of course it's particle board, it swelled up. Countertop has to be replaced. We're looking at the ceiling, or the flooring tiles are 12 by 12, or no, 2 foot, must be 2 foot square. The flooring tiles, carpet squares, have let loose on the joints. So we're looking into that, if that is going to have to be replaced. The insurance adjuster did put in for the entire hallway down there to be replaced. Now, some of the area that did not get wet, you can see the joints in that carpet. I think the carpet really wasn't anyway damaged by the water. I think it's just that the seams are a lot more visible because it did get wet, and you look at it more. Because all the way down to the other end of the hall where it's never been wet, you can still see the seams. So we are waiting to hear from the insurance company as far as what we're going to do next on that whole situation. The second flood was over at the neighbors. That was actually ended up being the next morning at about 2:30 in the morning. Staff were alerted that there was a trouble alarm on the fire alarm system for the sprinkler system. And staff got in there, investigated it, found water in Arrowhead, which is one of the houses that does not have any residents in it currently, which was a very good thing. But water was coming down from the ceiling and spreading out on the floor. It was in a mechanical / custodial room, which there was a floor drain in there also, which took a lot of the water, but some of the water did spread out from there. It turns out it was a couple of frozen pipes there. It was a sprinkler system, had a valve for a test line that froze and it cracked and split open, sprayed water against the wall. And then another spot, there was a copper 90 that got cold enough that froze and split. It turned out that room, that mechanical room area, there was a water heater in there that generally helps heat the area. The water heater was down, was not producing heat, and I think because of that situation that it froze. It got cold enough to freeze. It was right next to an outside wall. So staff got everything cleaned up, sucked up off the floor, repaired the water line, the 90, and then we had Ahern come in and replace the valve in the sprinkler system. The fire alarm system was down from 3 a.m. until about 12:30 p.m. And then everything was back in order, up and running. Damage as far as that was some drywall got wet in the mechanical room there. The ceiling tiles in the custodial room got damaged, so those need to be replaced. Other than that, mostly just water spread out over the floor and had to be sucked up. We got that dried out. Minimal damage on that one. We did put in for a claim on that one also. And that one will not meet the $5,000 deductible for damages. So that was our excitement to start 2022. I hope our year goes better.
Tim, you have a question?
I do, and I commend Scott for the action that he took and the team took to get the things under control. My big question, I spent a lot of years in IT, and it looks like you came on both of these to a good root cause of what the issue was. My question now is, what kind of preventative actions are we going to put in place to prevent this from happening in the future? Obviously, we have two separate instances, and one was a urinal, and there are some things that can be done there. I'm not gonna. And then the other one is the frozen pipe with heat not being in the room from the water heater. So I guess my question to you is, what can we do to prevent this from happening in the future?
Sure. We have already taken action on the urinals. We changed out the diaphragm and the flush valve. They're automatic flush valves on these urinals. Changed out the diaphragm, which flushes less water per flush. And we also reduced the amount of water coming through there with turning the shutoff valve, turning that down. So that if the urinal gets stuck on and water is flowing through that, it's not going to overflow, that the drain will take it. The guys also looked at the drains to see if there was any restriction in the drains, took and snaked them out to make sure of that. They didn't find anything in the drains that was a problem there. So now if a urinal is stuck on, the drain will take it and we won't have an overflow again. As far as the neighbors, the water heater is back up and running as far as heat there. And the doorway from the custodial room there has IT equipment in there behind a double door that produces some heat. So that is in there. Also, we have the water heater up and running. That's producing heat in there. And everything is insulated again. So we shouldn't have a problem with that again. The heat system for the neighbors is a geothermal system. When it gets to a certain point in the winter, your loop goes down in temperature and you have to have the boilers on to supplement that so that it keeps your loop temperature up. We did turn the loop temperature up a little higher, so that's going to keep things heated better in there and keep it thawed out. We're not going to have this problem again.
Thanks, Scott.
Mike, got a question?
Yeah, so the sprinkler line that froze, is this a dry or a wet system? And is it run in the attic or is it run in a conditioned space?
This is a wet system. That part runs above the ceiling. What the neighbors has, you have a false ceiling, which is your drop ceiling. And then you have an attic space above that, and then drywall, and then your insulation is above that. Above the insulation, above the drywall and insulation, there's a dry sprinkler system. So these pipes run it would be a conditioned area. It's not outside air, but it's not as warm as what the rooms are. Put it that way. But the valve was down on a test pipe, so it was probably the valve was probably between 5 and 6 feet from the floor. It's just that it was right next to an outside wall. It got it cold enough that it froze it and split the side of the valve open.
Makes complete sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
One other question here, because maybe I watch too much This Old House or whatever it is, but Mike might know better than I, but I know that there are devices out there that you can put on the floor that when they detect water, that it will turn the water off to a given area. Is that something that could be looked into in this case, just in case we ever have an issue with a leak in the future?
It's something I could definitely look into it and see what is out there, the possibilities. I'll check into it and I'll report back to you.
Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Mike, another comment?
Well, it's awful expensive to try to put something like that in for each situation where you would have that. So cost-wise, something that would alarm you when there's a leak of water on the floor is going to be challenging and probably quite expensive to put a valve in to shut water off to each area. You know, it's typical that precast, the precasts are level and then the drains go in. They never drain to the drain on precast, so it's always a challenge anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I commend Scott. I think you did a very good job with what
Thank
you
you.
said you did for repairs. That makes complete sense, that as long as you get that throttle down so that the water won't overflow when it's flowing through and the urinal's not lined up, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think that'll help out.
So did you check out any of the other bathrooms, or did you go through all the bathrooms and adjust things accordingly?
We did all of the urinals.
Okay, yep,
Yep.
okay. Dave,
I'll take that question one step further. Did you do all the urinals throughout all the buildings or just the administration building?
Well, what we found out is that the urinals in the judicial center, those are already have the half-gallon flush valve diaphragms in there.
Okay.
So we didn't have to do judicial center. So we did government center.
So we still have the neighbors and highway that it might be advisable to put it on your schedule throughout the year to try to get them all checked. And
Yep.
I think that sounds like a real good idea, a real good fix.
Yep.
Getting back to Tim's suggestion, I think that's a good suggestion, although I probably agree with Mike that it might be awful expensive. I just want to note that of the 20 years that I've been on the board, and a lot of those years I was on facilities committee or even chair of the committee for a number of years, I don't ever remember having problems like this. So it happens, but it's been pretty rare, so to maybe spend a bunch of money in case it happens again, maybe the actions that Scott and his team are taking are probably adequate.
Okay, next topic, Scott. What do you got next for us?
Oh, let's see. On my written report, I got the guys, we're working on the fuel island at the highway shop. Dustin is interested in getting some security cameras installed there. We started working on that. The guys got some conduit run and everything. They ran into a snag. Seems that the conduit that is put underground from the building out to the fuel island is apparently froze. Some water must have got down there and froze that, so you can't get wire through there. So we're kind of at the mercy of thawing and that on that project, but we'll get back to that in the spring when it warms up and get that finished up. Otherwise, the projects that the guys have been working on are just normal preventive maintenance stuff and daily stuff. I did meet with Doug up at the Colfax shooting range, and he indicated that they are looking at putting in a 400-yard range up there. We had talked about this once before, and he indicated that they are going ahead with this. They want to put up a building on the grounds, add a building, and then they also are going forward with drilling a well out there this year. All that would be no cost to the county at all. They're continuing to make improvements out at the range in Colfax. Next would be the facilities fleet, and you see that we have 6 new fleet vehicles, new 21 Malibus that were supposed to be in August, finally showed up on January 12th. Very nice cars. These are, they look exactly the same as the 18s that we sent back to Enterprise, with the exception that these have black interior as opposed to the gray interior. Hopefully that will help hide the dirt a little bit more on them. I stressed when these were put into service, stressed to all departments to make sure and clean up your garbage and try and treat these cars with more respect than your own vehicle. See if we can get some people to clean up after not only themselves, but their passengers that they take with them. Some of the stuff that was left in them was pretty ridiculous. And then we did get the 2018 Grand Caravan that slid into the curb. We got that fixed. I reported in there, we had an estimate from a body shop doing the work was around $5,000. And facility staff was able to repair that vehicle for less than $1,000. That got the repair costs got charged to Human Services. One of their staff was the one that drove it and slid it into the curb. They were good with that, so we replaced some parts and then had it in the shop for alignment, and they aligned it up and everything's good to go with it. So I think that was very commendable to my staff that were able to take care of that and save the county some money there. It really worked out nice that we had the blacksmith shop that is nice and heated, so the guys could do that since it's winter time. That shop is really working out nice for a lot of things in the cold temperatures. Let's see, that would be all for fleet vehicles. Financial reports, you guys look those over and have any questions? Things will look good for the end of the year. As I put on my report, that there is money left over to carry forward from the judicial roof project. There is also money left over from 3 other projects to be carried forward. So I'll be putting together a carry forward request for next month's meeting. So then that can go on and get approved by exec and county board. There was my calculations from the front parking lot project at the government center. There would be $16,553 to carry forward. The judicial roof project, $321,748. There was the sign project for government center, that there's $111.34 left to carry forward. And then judicial parking lot, it got too late in the year to do the crack sealing and seal coating on it. So we got some concrete repair done last fall. There's $70,000 and $70,909 left in that to carry forward. So then we can do the crack sealing repair and the seal coating this year and then get it restriped. So I'll prepare a carry forward for that and get everything together for next month's meeting. As far as things for 2022, it's pretty early in the year to see how things are going forward. One of the things that I have been looking at as far as saving some money in the county overall is our contract for shredding for confidential records. We currently have departments using Shredaway, and through the pandemic, with the closing of the building and opening of the building, I guess Shredaway did a pretty good job of taking care of our needs. But there were some reports back from departments that they would still get charged even though they hardly had anything in their bin, because Shredaway comes on a regular basis to the departments, and it doesn't matter if their bin is full or not. They'll still take it and whatever's there, and they'll charge for it. So I looked into a contract with Confidential Records. We currently use Confidential Records for the records destruction for the record center. When the record center was out in the building out back of the grounds, Patty Isaacson would do a purge out of the records once a year. And then Confidential Records was the company that came on site, and they would shred all the records right there. So I checked into their costs, and they gave us a better deal because we have multiple departments in the same buildings. So I got the prices. They also go out longer period of time. They'll go out 12 weeks in between shreds. So saving money on each time they come and spreading that time out, we can save some money on our departments with our shredding. Currently, also the sheriff's department currently uses Confidential Records for theirs. They've been using them for quite a while, and they've never had any complaints with them. So I reached out to Shredaway, and Shredaway does not. We don't have any current contract with them. IT division actually started shredding their own paperwork, and they just ended service with Shredaway. They called them up, and we no longer need the services. So I am looking at going ahead with this contract to change over and save the county some money. Any questions
Okay.
on that?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I do have a question going back to the Colfax rifle range as far as putting in a well. What,
Yes.
they're gonna put in a well to water the ground? I mean, how big a well? What do we have to be concerned about as far as a well on our property? People getting sick from drinking the water, whatever. Did they have any details as to what?
I don't have any details at this point, Chuck, of what they will do, but I will definitely reach out with them, find out all that information, the details. I will also get the details on the building that they want to put up. All that will be presented to the facilities committee prior to them doing anything.
Sure, yeah,
We get all
'cause
the
we would, yeah, I mean, we would need all that, a pretty good game plan as to
Yep.
who, what, where, why, when, yeah.
Yep, and that's what Doug and I just talked about it. What it was is he needed me to come out and unlock our padlock that's on the gate because he was putting a new apparatus on the gate so that it won't freeze up. They were having problems. So at that time I talked with him and I indicated to him that I would give you guys the information and then I would touch back out with him and get all the details of everything so I can bring it forward and let you guys know everything they want to do and get the go ahead prior to them doing that.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good.
Okay. Energy. Tim, did you get some spreadsheets?
Let me
Yeah,
unmute myself first. I did get the spreadsheets. Good
Okay.
job. My
Thank
only
you.
my only comment on that is right now, you might want to freeze the pane of that top heading on there. And you can do that through view and freeze pane. All you
Okay,
have to do, I think, is just click on that top column and do view and freeze pane. Because
Okay.
that's going to keep that heading as you scroll down to the other
Okay.
columns. It's going to keep that heading right at the top.
okay. I'll look into that. If I have any
But-
questions, I'll reach out to you.
Okay. Like I said, that's under in your once you bring the spreadsheet up,
Yep,
all you have to do is click on view and you'll see a freeze pane right in the heading there.
okay,
And that should be all you have to do to freeze the pane.
Okay.
And when you scroll down to the other columns down there, that top line will stay on there and
I
you'll just
gotcha.
be able to scroll through the other ones.
yep, I got you. I totally understand what you're saying. Please, I learned something tonight. Awesome.
You see, Tim, that's why you can't leave. You gotta stay on.
Exactly.
You're a valuable resource for us people. Yeah, Don.
I got a question and a comment. I sent, I think last month sometime, I sent each of you a copy of this portfolio manager, which Energy Star, I think, originated. And I was wondering if we could somehow merge that with Tim's spreadsheets, and that would give us a baseline of all the energy used and everything else in each building. Now, I know that's going to, like Chuck said this morning at our meeting of the sustainability group, it's going to take some time, but I wonder if we would want to see if we couldn't farm that out to one of the students at Stout, this Arthur Nealand. He's a professor at Stout, and he was at our bike committee meeting on Monday, and he was looking for projects for his students for semester long. And I don't know if he'd be interested in this one, but somebody to kind of bird dog this and look at all the base stuff like the square footage of the building, previous consumptions, and all the other things we need to get first. They might be interested in doing something like that. So I'm throwing it out, just wondering what you all think of something like that.
I think it'd be a great idea, because like I said this morning at the meeting, I took a look at it and my first thought was, holy smokes, this is yeah, this is going to take some time to fill in the initial information that they wanted. And then like Megan clarified that once you had all that in there, then each month it would self-populate as far as the bills and stuff. But that initial
Yeah.
setup and stuff, I mean, I would all be in favor of if we could get some help from somebody there at Stout or whatever. I would be very much in favor of that.
If you like, I'm willing to try to contact Arthur and see if he's interested in something like this.
I think that would be great. I think it'd be a great help to Scott too.
Yeah, because we can't lay this on Scott. This is going to take a
No.
lot of work to start with. And then like Chuck said, after you get it started, then Excel will automatically put in our monthly energy bills and stuff into this thing. So then we can track how we're doing. And I think you can even see where some areas are like Scott's been doing. No, who said this morning, I think in the schools, they're looking at being able to track various areas, like the cafeteria pulls a lot of energy, as you might expect. And so what they're doing, this is a program they have too, that they're tracking the energy all over the place. So maybe we can look at that at least. And yeah, I don't expect Scott to do all this work. This has to be done by us as supervisors, or we get some people like some of these students who might really eat this up, and then they get credit for it too.
Yeah, sounds
So
good.
I'll check with Arthur and report back next month.
Okay. Okay. Okay, what do you got next for us, Scott?
All right, on my written report, I had that I did not have any updates from Eagle Point Solar. And then I did reach out to Eagle Point. Dave Bloom indicated that one of the other guys was supposed to be reaching out to me and following up on this, in which he did not. So I talked with Dave. Dave is checking into their fluke meter that they have for collecting data. He wants to find out if the one that they have would work for us to put on our neighbors to collect that interval data that he wants. If that'll work out, he's a guy that'll put it on there. Otherwise, he said to get that data, we would probably have to talk to Excel and probably hire Excel to do something like that if we want that interval data. So once I find out about this meter, if that would work, we'll see where we're going from there. That is everything I have. Any questions?
Dave, yeah.
I was just wondering about the solar panels at Transit. Are you involved with anything with that, or is that just Transit?
I am not. The only thing I know of at Transit recently was the chargers for the buses. I know at one time there was talk of solar panels for Transit, but I don't know any more about that.
Yeah, well, I thought we had a grant for that and they extended it, if I remember correctly. We were told at Highway, but I wasn't quite clear on who was spearheading that project from the county. So I guess I'll have to ask at the next Transit meeting.
Yeah, I can definitely reach out to Austin and see what he has to say about it too, just for knowledge for myself. And if I find something out,
or if he needed any help, because he's probably not a facilities expert.
Sure. Yeah, I'll reach out to Austin.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, and because maybe some of those things might be limited too in time, so we'd hate to lose that $160,000, I think. wasn't the grant?
Sounds right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next, any other discussion on his report?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
Dave.
go back to the beginning. The stuff on the AT&T tower. Do you want me to talk to Nick or are you gonna do that, Scott?
I can reach out to Nick.
Okay,
Yep, I'll reach out to him.
Okay, next thing, item C, corporate council staff report, we have none. Item D, environmental services department, accessibility Wisconsin tract wheelchair update. Any updates?
I do have a meeting set for tomorrow with a couple of guys from the Rotary Club so that we can get things moving on this. Hopefully we'll
Okay.
have everything hammered out by spring and things can go forward with this.
Okay, sounds good. Next item, consideration for action to be taken by the committee, camping in county parks. What do you got on that one, Scott?
I really don't have anything on it. Other than, putting it on an action item for the committee to, some more consideration on it. Either to make a decision or send it forward to the next meeting and see, see if there's more questions, more information to gather on this.
If I recall correctly, it says the action that we were looking for is, I believe, talking to Nick in regards to the legal ramifications of allowing this to happen in our county parks.
Sure, okay.
So if you're going to talk to Nick about the other piece, you might want to talk to Nick, put this on your agenda, talk to Nick
Yep.
about also.
I will talk to Nick about it.
Okay,
Chuck,
next,
what?
yeah,
Question.
John.
On this camping, I can't remember, is it right now prohibited in our parks or is it just kind of whoever wants to camp can, or how are we doing it now? It seems to me we officially don't allow it, but we look the other way sometimes.
That's kind of the way it happens.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's no definite signs up saying no camping, which
Yeah.
I would like to get to a point of that. If we're gonna have no camping, let's get it so that it's there, so everyone knows it,
yeah.
and then it
I
could be
agree.
enforced.
Right, because right now we have no enforcing agency other than the sheriff's department if there's a call or a complaint.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of gray areas there.
Yeah, there is gray areas.
Need to get something more black and white.
Right, and if you are going to allow camping, it says then you have to have restrooms of some kind, and then you're probably going to have to come up with a decision on what you're going to allow for fire burning
Yes,
and people who bring in firewood, and I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration.
It gets pretty complicated, I think,
Okay, next thing, item B, timber cutting at Boyceville Range.
yes, I had reported to you guys that I had a meeting with DNR, and they did indicate that the timber has not been cut since 2011, and that it is ready to be cut. I guess I put this out there for an action item if we wanted to, if the committee wanted to go ahead with that, I would pursue with the DNR forester into what we have to do. If we have to get a logger ourselves out there to do this, or how that's all going to happen. I did leave a message for, it was Kyle Koopman, the DNR forester. Left a message for him. I have not gotten a return call back from him about this. So I did start checking on it to get some more information, but I haven't got any more information at this point.
Okay,
Just to clarify, we are talking about select cutting, not clear cutting, right?
Yes, select cutting.
okay, so we'll maybe wait for a report on next meeting, as far as if
Yep.
you get a chance to talk to the DNR people.
Yeah, I'll put it on next month's and hopefully have a lot more information to report and then make a decision.
Okay. Okay, so the action will be a report next month, okay. H, consider.
Dave has his hand up.
Oh, Dave,
Yeah.
yes.
I guess, could we have a report or any information on timber cutting on the island? What's happening with that? It seems like it's been talked about for a couple of years. Conservation, Dan Prestabach seemed to be involved in that quite a bit. I didn't, at that time, when he brought it up and was looking into it, improving the road to get over there. I didn't ask why conservation was doing it more than facilities, but when you're talking about timber cutting, I think it's been many years since that island's been cut. And I think the trees are past due. And I think somebody in the county has to be working on that, come up with a plan of what we're going to do there.
So the meeting that I did have was with Chase Cummings and the DNR guys. There was discussion of that, Dave, and
Good.
I will reach out to Chase and get an update for you on that also.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know for sure why conservation is handling that, because it seems like all the rest of the parks are land that the county owns facility deals with. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think there needs to be some clarification there and find out what's happening. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's Land and Water Conservation Department and that's an island surrounded by water and it all falls in, or if that's how it happened, but I totally get it. But I'll work with Chase and get an update.
I think they handled it or have over the years because Dan Prestabach, that was his home territory, and he spent a lot of time on the island.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
agree.
thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay, if not, item H, consideration or reports of resolutions, ordinances to be recommended to the county board, none. Our next meeting date will be February 23rd at 2022 at 6:30. Any other comments or discussions to be brought up by any of the members? If not, then we are adjourned. Thank you. Stay warm, stay safe. So see you next time.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Have a
guys.
good night, everybody.